to have this kind of group of people whose main aim is to develop their minds so that they develop peace and harmony in the world is a rare and precious thing in this age.
Because after all, they've chosen such a wonderful path. Gave up everything and chose this. It's not easy. Now, in terms of education, it's endless, as we see.
This group of nuns that we're dealing with now are the first nuns who are doing this.
They dig out their skill or their innate talents. A window to look into Buddhism through the nuns.
And giving them a better sense of their own identity as nuns.
And it's not the project, it's the individuals for which the project started. I think empowerment of individuals, whether it be female or male, often comes much through education, because that sort of sheds light on your ignorance and then brings in confidence. My name is Rinchen Kando, and of course I've been living in exile for the last 43 years. My feeling for the community was that I need to do something for the community. I must do something for the community, and also for the sake of the people inside Tibet.
My name is Philippa. I'm 24 years old. Actually, I'm from Kinor, but I'm staying at Dolma. I came here since 2000. When I was still, one of my teachers told about the Nuns Project and Dolma.
This is a project which is dealing with nuns or Tibetan women who have really suffered under the occupation of the Chinese government.
I think what people really need to know about TNP is that it's a groundbreaking project.
The Nuns Project is an umbrella organization that's working to improve the level of status of Tibetan nuns, largely through bringing up the educational levels.
It's a project which is trying to offer, for the first time, the kind of educational opportunities and facilities for a group of people, now a significant group of people.
Now here in India, the nuns had the opportunity to learn the Buddhist philosophy. So actually main thing is our main aim is to educate the nuns to get equal education opportunities as a monk.
I would like the world to look at the Tibetan Nuns Project as an entity that is struggling to preserve our culture, identity, and Buddha Dhamma in the full essence through the women who have suffered so much as an occupied country.
In one sense, it's a religious organization. In another sense, it's an NGO. It's under the auspices both the Tibetan Women's Association as well as religious department, so both sides.
One of the aims of the Tibetan Nuns Project has been to train them so that they would have this leadership quality in them, and they'll be able to work in the community, in the Tibetan community, serve the Tibetan community, or in a religious institution.
The way in which we're different is because we do work across traditions and with a number of different nunneries. And we work in a non-sectarian way.
I don't think you'll find any other NGO doing the sort of work with Tibetan nuns that we do. There are, for example, there's a Zanskar Nuns Association, and there's a Ladakhi Nuns Association, and there are various individual nunneries who are doing similar kinds of things. But I don't think there's another nunnery who is picking up so many nuns and offering so much help to nuns as a whole, working for nuns in general. So I think TNP has a very specific role there.
Then the Tibetan Nuns Project. As such, there's not much of a need to grow. What I see the growth in is the Tibetan nuns.
Main thing is the Buddhist nuns are carrying the Buddha's teaching. Buddha's teachings are helping to improve human beings. We believe that if you practice Buddhism, you'll get all improvement for your quality. So that's very important, I feel, we need it in the world also. They should know that what the Tibetan Nuns Project is doing.
At first we had to work with the trauma of the nuns who had come over from Tibet, both their physical and their mental trauma. This was essential. We had a huge amount of medical things to deal with. We had a huge amount of sort of settling down, assuring them that they were capable of doing education, they were capable of keeping their vows, they were capable of behaving like nuns.
You know, it's one thing to have somebody there when you're in trouble, ask a question and she will solve that. But the other thing is to also for them to know that one day we have to do it ourselves.
After coming to Dolma, my life changed too much in the education. Before I came here, I didn't know how to learn Tibetan grammars and poetry and how to read this. Here I can improve my education very easily because we get here very good opportunities and learn philosophy.
야, 시모토 또가 예바다. 되러. 시가제이 세마토 너타바제이 세마니지 시마다 타데 또가 이마다 야 시마다 타데 또 해가 야 루리샤 무교하다 지시 루리샤 무교하다 시반제 제베에서는 시반제 테마도 못다바제 테마니지.
It started when there was a group of nuns came from Lithang, who came from Tibet, and then they had no place to go.
When the Tibetans first came, very few Tibetan nuns came. And quite why that was is slightly mysterious, except that a lot of nuns disrobed when they arrived in India because they found it too difficult to be a nun. So even in 1985, that sort of period, there were only probably about, between 40 and 60 nuns in exile.
The Tibetan Nuns Project actually began way back in the mid-80s. And this was actually prompted by His Holiness during one of the first meetings of the Tibetan Women's Association executives with His Holiness. And he said that you should also do something for the nuns. Without His Holiness's consent, without his permission, no matter how many people might have noticed it, nothing would have happened. So this was born in the office of the Tibetan Women's Association. So at that time, I was the president of the Tibetan Women's Association, and then I had the privilege to attend the International Tibet Support Group's meeting. People had come from all over the world, and then I went there as a political entity, but my heart was with the nuns. At the end, I requested them, could you please give me just a few minutes to talk about the nuns. Within that 3 minutes, I said, by the way, my friends, we also now have a Tibetan Nuns Project. If anybody would like to hear more about it, please come to so-and-so room after the meeting. So after the meeting, in that little room, I saw it packed with my friends, international women from all over the world. And amongst them was Dr. Nepper. And then she said, I'm so glad that you are now taking care of the nuns and you are intending to do something. Please let me know if there's anything I can do. I've always been wanting to help the nuns.
I personally got involved beginning in 1990, and at that time there was a group of us here in Dharamsala, and at that point developed the idea to build an institution like Dolma Ling, really an educational institution for nuns, and one that was started from scratch so that it could be built up from the beginning as it needed to be.
Then Philippa and her husband, Jeremy Russell, they've been with the Tibetan community for the last so many years.
I've had a long connection with Rinchen Kongala. Basically, when she was the president of the Tibetan Women's Association, I worked on a sort of occasional part-time basis and so on.
Lobsang Dechen, the Tibetan nun, she was a teacher at the lower TCV.
That time I never heard of Tibetan Nuns Project in it, but I imagined that one of these days I really want to work for nuns.
I always felt that the Nuns Project should be handled by nuns. But then unfortunately we never had any nun who could be recruited to work in the office. So she was the only one that I could see that could handle responsibility. And I asked her, why do you want to be a teacher? You come and work with us because this is your work.
And then in 1992 I joined Tibetan Nuns Project because our director, Ms. Rinchen Kongala, she wants me to, since being a nun, work for the nuns, so I joined.
And then ever since, from those days, Betsy, Philippa, Lobsang Dechen, we've been together. Dolma and Kesang and people, they've been there from the very beginning. In fact, they all joined as young people, and now they've become all parents.
Because they started learning the philosophy when they were in Tibet, but nuns started to learn philosophy when they came in India. So they have more experience than nuns. Yeah, I feel we have to work harder than monks. Learn more about Buddhism and improve our debate.
Debating, I think, is a very, very interesting tradition that we Tibetans have. And as a child, I never understood. I used to wonder, what are they doing? Why are they shouting so much? Why are they clapping their hands? So it's only when I began to notice what they're doing and began to ask questions was I impressed with the tradition. Because every gesture has a meaning. And it's a wonderful, wonderful meaning. And then I also concluded that it's mainly to shed light on your ignorance and work on your ego and become a compassionate human being. I wouldn't say that you debate to get empowered, but debating gives you empowerment. But the point is, I think we have to always watch and see, is it doing the really thing it should do to a person, or is it generating more ego in the person? I always tell the nuns, please debate with confidence, but don't debate with ego. And even if you lose with humility. But the main thing is they're discussing, debating, to know the essence of Buddhism, to work on your ego, to work on your unnecessary emotions. So when you learn to do that, automatically you're empowered. In the most deep sense, in the most firm sense, you're empowered. Well, it's very important to us, but I can't say it's important to everybody. Because for some people it might be just a project. And some people might even think, why the Tibetan Nuns Project?
It's very important because the nuns are a particularly, probably the most particularly neglected section of Tibetan society. Monks are generally more respected than nuns, that's one thing. Monks are able to take full ordination and nuns are not. Monks have a long tradition of education. They're respected as being intellectuals and so on. And nuns are having to fight for that. This group of nuns that we're dealing with now are the first nuns who are doing this. This is quite difficult because all their teachers are monks and they have no role models. Plus they've been working with, the general attitude of the society that women can't do the same things that men can do.
Whether it's a monk, nun, or a child, education is so important. Since we found a negligence in the field of the nuns, I felt it was very important that we focus on this because after all, they've chosen such a wonderful path. Gave up everything and chose this. It's not easy. They have definitely been excluded. But I've never found an answer to say why they were excluded. And then sometimes I just say that, if they had really taken an initiative in Tibet also and say, we also would like to be educated, maybe things would have been different. But I don't think there were also any initiative from their side.
Girls were needed at home to work, for the family, to work in the field. So I think that was how it started. It's not necessary for a girl to have education like the boys. It was not like monks or nuns. It was like, girls and boys.
Because monks, I think they do themselves. Main thing is the nuns, we can't do, but nobody is stopping or something like that, but we can't take our own responsibility. That's why we really want to give the nuns good education, so they can take their own responsibility, because that's very important. Even if we give the education, everything, if the nuns don't take their own responsibility, its condition will remain same.
There are so many nunneries in Tibet, but it's not like the monasteries.
And the monks organized themselves around their previous monasteries because they had roots, strong roots. But the nuns came from very, very disparate backgrounds. There were very few who had the same connections, and so they didn't actually come together and gel together that well. So they weren't nearly so organized.
Their educational system is so well grounded and so well, structured, that there is no way it will fade away unless the monks themselves decide not to study.
We give education to Shuksep. They're the same. They have this equal level of degree. Dolma nuns also, they have equal opportunity.
But there's one point where we are trying to struggle for the Gelongma ordination. And here there's a lot of debate. Some are saying this was never there, it should not be there, and if you revive it, there'll be this and that, pros and cons. They're talking about, and to the extent I think some are even thinking that Nuns Project is just doing something that they don't know.
Gelongma is a fully ordained nun, and the Geshe-ma is a degree. When you get education, you get a degree. That the highest degree is Geshe-ma. Ordination is a practice. You have to discipline yourself. You have to keep your vows and discipline yourself. Degree is the education. You have to learn, and then you get degree.
Because we are not saying that it has to be done, whether it's by hook or crook, it has to be made available. We are just saying, please, you famous scholars, think about it, read about it, and then tell us with reason whether it's possible or not.
Yeah, I will go for the Gelongma if I will get chance. Ni tanda ani Gelongma duwe yo mare laya di ni ani Gelongma gi ni domgyu di sangi chumden den nangwan ni so ni barkap chila ni Gelongma gi domgyu di chebe kimsen la ni tanda ani Gelongma duwe yo mare la gores. Inayan tanda Gelongma gi ni duwe yo me di ni domgyu di che yo me kola ni cheba che dan che shimbares. Okay.
But the way the Nuns Project is working, it's not supposed to have very much difference at all. I mean, we're working that it doesn't have too much difference. It's basically set up along the same lines. However, because they don't have these very strong traditions of particular monasteries, in a sense you have more freedom to add more subjects, do different things, work with something and find whether it works or suits the nuns or not. So they have more in terms of English and modern curricula subjects and so on. The issue of power, the power being in the hands of the men, is an issue, and yet it's not an issue as far as the Tibetan nuns are concerned, because they're quite kind of content within that framework. And they have great respect for their teachers. Have been brought up with a great respect for the monks in general. So they wouldn't in any way criticize the monks or rail against it themselves. But the fact of the matter is that they are having to work a great deal harder than the monks to achieve what the monks can achieve. But there are a lot of things that nuns can do absolutely equally to monks. I think it's human nature that women will happily step back. Women are more peaceful. They are homemakers. Their whole psyche and biology is tuned toward creating harmony, to keeping a family together, to making a home, to making things pleasant, where a man's psyche and psychology is towards defending, and that might mean attacking as well, and being relatively aggressive, and to holding power. It's certainly not particular to the Tibetan community. I mean, this has to be acknowledged, that in any walk of life, particularly one which holds power within a society, you're never going to get the number of women up there that you get of men. Being a nun, although it's something which people respected and so on, it wasn't as respectable as being a monk by any means at all. So they are, in a sense, the most neglected, the last people to have got any education, either modern or traditional.
I was in TCV school, and then I wanted to join in dialectic school. At that time, there's no women going to dialectic school to study. They wanted to send me to Varanasi higher institution. They said there's no women there, so I didn't get. I thought, oh, this is just weird. When our director said she wanted to become Tibetan Nuns Project, then I said, oh, I must go and help them, because even I didn't get the opportunity. I really want to provide opportunity to other sisters. I used to enjoy when monks do the Buddhist philosophy debating in front of a temple. I really admire. I really wanted to. I didn't get the opportunity.
Yes, I feel that we have same opportunities at like monks these days, because these days, not before. These days nuns can debate and learn philosophy like monks. I think the society look down the female, so it depends on the female society.
Jang used to be a place in Tibet. Gunju is something that happens in the winter. So this whole session is called Jang Gunju, something that happens in Jang in winter. But we often laugh and say in India it not necessarily happens in winter. So this was a very popular tradition in Tibet. And very, very great scholars used to go and debate there. And you should hear how they used to struggle to get there and be able to debate. That when they go there, they get so geared up that they don't want to eat. And sometimes they don't have the time to boil tea. It was that exciting and inspiring for them. Many of the things that are happening, that happened for the monks, never happened for the nuns in Tibet also. There's a Western nun called Tsering who used to look after a nunnery in the south. She was the one who brought up the subject and said they should be also allowed to have Jangkunju. So she somehow raised the funds for the first session. From then onwards, we never let it discontinue. So with the Department of Religion and Nuns Project, we've always carried it on.
My friend said that if the environment is beautiful and clean, it gives us happiness and peace. Peace lah in that you show. Happiness and peace lah.
We set up Dolma as a model educational project. Which we could start from scratch and set it up as we wanted it to be. Trying to shape something that gives the traditional full educational qualifications that nuns haven't had. And then also bringing in essentials of a modern education. This is what we've really put so much of our effort into. And it was because we had this goal of really trying to build a model educational institution. We've put huge amounts of effort also into Shuksab Nunnery, which we're supporting entirely and which we're in the process of building an entirely new nunnery. But we don't manage the educational program.
So once they have completed their education here, they have the option of going outside the community and serving the community. They can live here in the nunnery, serve the nunnery, or be in retreat, or so they have that kind of an option.
Our goal has been to really work to produce these initial groups of educated nuns, and then they're the ones who should really go out and do the broader networking.
My thirst through this organization is more and more leadership comes through.
If they have nuns who are well educated, then they can run their own nunneries, and then they can, whatever right they have, they can enjoy. But the right now, since the education part is lacking, they can't, even there's a right, they can't enjoy.
Favorite subject is Tibetan grammar.
Why?
Because it is my ambition. First I will work at Dolma, then I will go to my hometown. My dream is to help people in society, poor and helpless people and needy people. Because they need our help. I want to teach them Tibetan language and about history.
당가루 담세는 미세기 거닐라 응원해지는 난치기니 시야바이는 가르소 게시기니 시야바이나 단다 취열라서 발라바이는 야 통고열했어 야바 챙기열했어 그래서 그저 때 단다 대세 민체 조고이 되고 때 로바체도 야고요 서 챙기도 있어.
I think one thing in the West is we get so wrapped up in how busy our lives are, and also our systems, whatever their faults, work kind of so efficiently. We don't think about systems. They're in place, we slot into them. Education, for one, is something we take incredibly for granted, and it's so available that we're also I mean, we get tired of it. You know, we've been to school for forever. We're tired of going to school. School's a given, and we kind of react against it. And you know, we want more. We want better.
To have chosen a path like this and not really knowing much about it, I think that's a very sad thing. So the only way you can open their eyes to see for themselves is education.
It's really helpful to see a situation where education wasn't possible, where when you provide it, you begin to see all the things that it does for people beyond just education.
Now, in terms of education, it's endless, as you see. I want them to be good in computer skills. I want them to learn how to take photographs. I want them to learn shooting videos on top of their very heavy schedule of spiritual studies.
The skills that come along, the organizational abilities that come along, the confidence that comes along, and then the enthusiasm that people have for it, because it's, you know, it's new and it's fresh, and sort of to be reminded of all that is very helpful.
And then most of them have not had the opportunity to expose themselves into these things. Because firstly, where are they going to get a camera, for example? Where are they going to get a computer to be wanting to learn computer? So I think it's very important for us to provide these to them so that we dig out their skill or their innate talents.
It's one of the great benefits of stepping out of Western life and investing time and effort in something like this is to really put things back in perspective. The importance of educating women is, this is half the population. And it's to the advantage of all the population if that half is educated and has skills and can function. So it's been quite a complicated, it's been a real learning experience in the education that needs to be provided. For instance, we help Shuksep Nunnery, and they have been able to just access the educational tradition of the Nyingma tradition as it's in place at Ling, Painter Rinpoche's monastery in South India. So they're getting now the full range of Nyingma studies. And with other nunneries, we've helped them to set up educational programs, all geared towards higher studies, but often having to start with very basic studies.
You really study for the sake of studying, you know, not to say that I'm a scholar. After having finished that, you say, what have I got? Am I a different person today because of my studies? That's what I'm looking for. I want them to be simple, you know, in terms of worldly possessions. That's why I keep telling them, you're a nun. You've given up everything and you become a nun. Stick to that. Now, in terms of your mental growth, there is no limit.
There are also issues of defining exactly what non-sectarian is and then how one reflects that in the study curriculum, which isn't easy. It's been said to us, in a perfect world, if you're non-sectarian, it means you have to know all four sects perfectly. Well, that's a tall order for anybody, and it's really hard for people who are doing adult literacy.
This Jirambo Death me Yomares. Shutong Shujin Chabayana, Anikosoya, Lojoya Tensono, Kosoga Kosoloma Laya, Kokachi, Chiksotana, Way 10 years. The Nidi Takusula, Anesoya, Malaptoya, Tisseresonal, and Marasopache, Demogan, and Sonton de years.
The idea is that with the education and this kind of development, we're training leadership from within the nunneries so that they'll be in a better position to look after their own interests and needs.
I've been so lucky to be supported by my friends from all over the world. They saw that I was honest, I was sincere in my work. So that really, it just came. And I just had to be very sure that I was doing the right thing. And I was keeping an eye on every penny that comes in, and that it goes to the right direction, that it benefits the person or the purpose it came for. So that way it hasn't really, I never felt a challenge as such. It's been hard work, but I enjoyed working hard. Mm-hmm. And then whatever we do has to be sincere and truthful. Mm-hmm. We can't be just using the name of Tibetan nuns and do something else. Mm-hmm. If we did things like that, then I don't think we deserve anybody's support.
I'm interested in spiritual growth. I want to study far about the Buddhism. No, I'm not willing to stop my studies. My wish is peace for all sentient beings.
I think it's very, very important to, in terms of the Buddha Dharma, to enable nuns in this way, to bring them into the Buddhist fold in a very powerful way. I think it will, for the world, generate a good deal more peace and harmony if we had a more balanced Sangha. In the West, nuns and monks are falling away because they find it too difficult to function within that world. We here have a situation where people, because of the Tibetan society, which considers monks and nuns to be very, very important, is still able to do it. Now, how long this will continue, I don't know. But this moment in time where we can still do it, where we can still bring people up with this kind of mentality, with this sort of idea, with this aim and goal in their life, is so rare and precious that we shouldn't lose it, we shouldn't neglect it.
Tsering thola ya bandu tene inji thola ya bandu us thong so karsena shiro manga de kula inji to so na inji ke thola phati rate thola da boda tene na chi thola ina kala kan so ko chi mel phashi ya ina da tene shanda sa ne sin yan ba ina tene thola chi ne shi ken na ya bu cha shas.
In Tibet, the nuns, they can't learn about Buddhism as they wish. In India, we can learn and listen to the His Holiness teaching as our wish. Tibet, they have no right to learn as their wish and keep His Holiness picture.
The whole Tibetan nation needs the support of, the outside world. If the fate of the Tibetan nation changes, and then if we could get back to Tibet, I think, and then, everything will fall in its right place.
The Tibetans in exile have so many windows to see into the cause of Tibet. And I think Tibetan Nuns Project is one of them. When you say, with the hope of going back to Tibet in a free Tibet one day, how do you go? I don't expect any of us to be taking back gold and silver, but at least let's take back our culture and identity. I've been putting my effort into children's education, women's work, and all of this, and then it just floated so naturally that I never had to look back and say, what am I doing? Some of them come and tell me, you've been so kind to us, like a mother. I don't know how to thank you. So I say, you don't need to thank me. All I want you to do is be a good Buddhist nun. And I'll be the happiest then. I really want them to study hard, get the essence of Buddhism, become a good practitioner, become an example for the rest of the community members.
Well, it's been a tremendous learning experience for me. But mainly it's the excitement of, seeing that you can take an idea and you can build it up, and seeing the change and the development of the nuns, which is just so incredibly rewarding.
Yeah, TNP has gotten so much bigger than when we first started, and it's growing every year. But my point here is we have to grow in the right way. I would like more and more Tibetans within the structure to take initiative, to take responsibilities, and to be able to run the organization one day. Because I don't personally intend to be there forever. And I'm only one, but Tibet needs many more.
Just walk on by, pretend that you just can't see the pain in their eyes. Something's gone wrong with the will. I will criticize, none to I think were right. Then we'll step aside and let someone else put up their fight. So walk and be free. Tibet shall be free. Walk and be free. Tibet shall be free. China, come on. How can you say it's your land? Yes, you kill all the natives, then you take from this sacred land. And the Dalai Lama shines his bright light onto you. Yes, well, now you'll change. The time's not waiting for you. So walk